It's Thursday, May 14th, and this is now on HNN.
Developing right now, a strong typhoon slams into the pandemic-hit Philippines. We'll have the latest.
Stay-at-home orders remain in place in most states, but a new CBS News poll shows just how many Americans want the country to reopen. I'm Elise Preston with more on that and steps being taken to push up the timeline.
This would be an approach that would be rooted in facts.
Here at home, the state announces plans to bolster contact tracing and testing efforts as the economy reopens.
This is in addition to the more than 80 contact tracers already available to the Department of Health.
Some Americans are getting back to work now that businesses in many states are reopening, but layoffs continue. I'm Iti Chen with the latest unemployment numbers.
These stories, plus a high-flying special salute to our state's healthcare workers, coming up on This Is Now. Good afternoon, everyone. The time is now 12:36, and you're watching This Is Now. I'm Jonathan, your director-producer, alongside Ashley. We're going to begin today with some breaking news from the Western Pacific.
A powerful typhoon made landfall in the Philippines, forcing the evacuation of tens of thousands of people in a country already under lockdown amid the coronavirus pandemic. AIRLINES has the late-breaking developments.
The typhoon struck Eastern Samar. It is the first named storm of the 2020 season in the Western Pacific. Fong packed winds of at least 115 miles an hour, an intensity that makes it the equivalent of a Category 3 hurricane. The storm's violent winds triggered the evacuation of tens of thousands of people, according to Reuters news agency. At least 200,000 people live in coastal areas affected. The pandemic has complicated the evacuation process in a country frequently struck by typhoons. More than 50 million people in the Philippines are living under strict lockdown rules in an attempt to contain the virus. The country currently has 11,876 cases of the disease. That's according to data from Johns Hopkins University. In order to combat its spread, Reuters reports evacuation centers in the central Philippines will only be filled to half capacity, and evacuees will have to wear masks. Fong is expected to gradually turn northwest and is likely to weaken over land. Due to the Philippines' location in the tropical Pacific, the country is hit by about 8 to 9 storms in an average year. I'm Lynn Kawano, Hawaii News Now.
And more breaking news from Oahu's North Shore. A search is underway right now for a missing hiker in Pupukea. We are still gathering information, but we do know the search started this morning around 6:30. It's taking place near Makana Road. An HPD K9 unit is also on scene. We'll continue to track this story and bring you the latest details as they come in. Now to those coronavirus numbers for our state. State Health Department is reporting 0 new cases today, the second time in less than a week. Health officials say one Hawaii resident was diagnosed outside of the state, so that case has been removed from the statewide count, which now stands at 637. Hawaii's death toll remains at 17, and so far close to 90% of patients have been released from isolation.
That's some encouraging news, and so is this. Did you see this just moments ago? You had to look up and see it. It was the Air National Guard, the 15th Wing Active Duty Airmen from Joint Pearl Harbor Air Force Base as well. They did this flyover in honor of our frontline healthcare workers. This is a shot of them flying over Diamond Head area, Waikiki, but they flew over some of the state's biggest hospitals. If you caught a glimpse of it, got some good pictures, we'd love to see more of them. Just post them on our Facebook page with the hashtag HNN.
Meanwhile, many travelers are unhappy with the way airlines have handled the coronavirus crisis. The Department of Transportation received more than 25,000 complaints from passengers in March and April. Now, for some perspective, the department usually receives about 1,500 complaints a month. Chris Van Cleve talked to 2 airline CEOs to see what they're doing about it.
Online outrage from flyers as pictures post of seemingly packed flights. A handful a day, leaving up to 85% full. And at Charlotte's airport, a steady stream of flyers Wednesday. While the number of daily travelers roughly doubled from a month ago, on average planes are departing with just 31 passengers.
Has people's sense of what crowded is changed?
Well, I think, there's a lot of confusion. If you go back, a month or so before masks were required for employees or our passengers, social distancing was definitely necessary.
Frontier CEO Barry Biffle is in Florida encouraging people to get back to flying. His carrier is blocking 20 seats per flight as part of what he calls a multi-layered approach to safety. That includes electrostatic fogging of planes to kill the virus and requiring masks for all aboard.
So how do you make people wear a mask?
So we make it very clear when you check in, whether it be online or in person, that you must wear a facial covering of some type. And if you don't have it, we will deny you boarding.
What happens if I refuse to wear the mask once I'm on the plane?
We'll try to de-escalate it, but we do require you to wear a mask. And what customers are telling us is they feel safer when everyone's wearing it. So it's not just about you.
Unlike other forms of mass transit, modern airliners typically have hospital-grade air filters to strip out virus and bacteria. Fresh air is cycled into the cabin every 2 to 4 minutes. But there's no government standard or guidelines for distancing on a plane.
It feels a bit like trial by error right now.
This is a unique set of events, and I would say that we are trying to respond as quickly as we can to something that we've never seen before. And our priority is to make people feel that flying is safe.
Robin Hayes runs JetBlue. His carrier is blocking up to 40% of the seats on its flights.
Should there be some standardization?
We would welcome that. For example, we believe you're safe if everyone wears masks, but there's some inconsistencies with the mask. So it would be great if it was mandated by the government that everyone wear it, just like you can't smoke on a plane.
Also making news, 5 Democratic senators are proposing legislation that would require airlines to offer cash refunds to flyers who canceled a flight during the pandemic for any reason, even if the ticket was non-refundable. Airlines, which are losing at least $7 billion a month right now, say that could push them right into bankruptcy. Chris Van Cleve, CBS News, Reagan National Airport, Virginia.
As states across the country continue to lift social distancing restrictions, there are demonstrations that are getting heated against many of those stay-at-home orders. Elise Preston has the story.
Angry protesters, some of them armed, gathered at the Michigan State Capitol demanding Governor Gretchen Whitmer lift stay-at-home orders.
She says she's going by the science. She's opening the state up by the science. I don't think she knows what science is.
The demonstrations come just a day after Wisconsin's stay-at-home order was thrown out, allowing bars and other businesses to welcome customers.
It's been kind of boring sitting in my house.
In Madison County, Illinois, local officials have already given businesses like restaurants and gyms the green light amid the coronavirus pandemic.
Yoo-hoo!
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis says retail shops, salons, and restaurants in Miami-Dade and Broward counties can begin reopening Monday.
This would be an approach that would be rooted in facts, not in fear.
A new CBS News poll finds a large majority of the public still prioritizes staying home to slow the outbreak over reopening the economy. But now there's a growing gap between Republicans and others on reopening.
62% of Republicans want the country to prioritize going back to work, even if it exposes more people to the virus. That's up 10 points from 3 weeks ago in late April.
Everybody wants to reopen. The question is how you reopen. And from the national experts, global experts, make sure you don't reopen too soon.
Part of hard-hit New York will begin reopening Friday, while restrictions in New York City could be lifted in June.
Every other crisis we've been through, it had an endpoint. This one will have an endpoint too.
Officials in New York continue to look into cases of an inflammatory illness attacking children, possibly linked to COVID-19. Doctors in more than a dozen other states in Washington, D.C. are also investigating cases. Elise Preston, CBS News, New York.
Honolulu Mayor Kirk Caldwell announced outdoor fields and courts will reopen for sports with limitations starting tomorrow. Caldwell's new order applies to both public and private outdoor sports fields and courts and is limited to activities where individuals can maintain 6 feet of physical distance at all times, such as singles tennis, yoga, and tai chi. For outdoor group exercise, the maximum number of participants allowed is 10 people, and social gatherings are still not allowed. The order also allows drive-in religious and spiritual services starting Friday. Each vehicle must only be occupied by members of the same household, and everyone attending the service must remain in their vehicles the entire time. Food, beverages, or materials of any kind cannot be distributed or collected during the service. Meanwhile, Kauai County is planning to reopen beaches starting tomorrow for a 2-week pilot project, but there are also rules. Groups are limited to 10 people or less, and beachgoers in those groups must be from the same household. For everyone else, social distancing is required. Here's Kauai Mayor Derek Kawakami.
The intent of this 2-week period is to monitor our ability to open our beaches while following CDC guidelines and to maintain social distancing with people who are not in our same household. As we get closer to the end of the 2-week pilot, we will reevaluate if we can or should continue this local rule.
Mayor Kawakami is also extending the mandatory quarantine order for visitors through June 30th. Although very few visitors are on the island, the state reports 0 out-of-state arrivals since April 1st and only 60 inter-island arrivals.
Maui County announced about 60 more parks, tennis courts, and pickleball courts will reopen Saturday for exercise only. County officials say more parks, community centers, and pools will be included in the next phase of reopening. For a full list of what's open, visit mauicounty.gov. Part of the state's recovery plan is to track down the contacts of any new patients to prevent another cluster.
A partnership with the University of Hawaii for a program that will train 300 more contact tracers who can be mobilized in case of a surge. This is in addition to the more than 80 contact tracers already available to the Department of Health.
The Lieutenant Governor has said we'll need about 500 tracers once tourism restarts. The health director says the state has also increased testing capabilities.
Today we're able to easily test for 3,000 tests per day. Our capacity now, or our volume now, is 1,000, and we can surge to test up to 5,000 individuals per day.
Dr. Anderson said he believes the state is prepared if there is a second spike in cases.
The unemployment office expects it'll take another 3 weeks to process the most complicated claims. Since March, about 232,000 people have filed for benefits. Almost 158,000 have been processed, and the labor director, Scott Murakami, says more than 73,000 are still pending.
Typically, the ones that are most complicated are the reasons that they have separated from work, when there's a discrepancy with what the employer reported and what the claimant reports. That's when we have to really get into the details. We have to document it, so it's a fact-finding process, and then we make the decision, we render a decision from there.
Nearly 3 million more Americans filed for unemployment last week. Nancy Chin takes a closer look at those numbers.
Select businesses are open again in some states, and that means a return to work for many people who were let go during the shutdown, including stylist Melissa Woodkey.
It's very exciting. Everybody's excited to be back at work.
But even as some are back on the job, others are losing them. Uber just let go of 3,700 employees, and they are not alone. The Labor Department says nearly 3 million Americans applied for unemployment benefits last week. That's higher than experts predicted and means roughly 36 million people have lost work since the coronavirus started forcing businesses to shut down. Among those let go, hotel workers William Gonzalez and his wife Sonia Batiste, seen here with their son.
One of the biggest concerns besides the money to pay rent and bills is that the fact that we are not having any health insurance.
A new report from the National Bureau of Economic Research estimates 42% of recent layoffs will become permanent. And for people who have returned to work, job security is a major concern if customers aren't willing to go out and spend money.
Whereby we see businesses having to lay off people for a second time.
Experts say the next few months will likely determine whether many businesses survive and if people who have jobs keep them. Nancy Chen, CBS News, New York.
All right, time for our checking in segment. You know, a USS Arizona survivor is actually staying connected and continuing to tell his oral history story even during this age of social distancing. We caught up with him yesterday, and we have this story to share with you.
We all love you in Hawaii, and can't wait to see you hopefully in December.
Well, I got my reservations there. It's just a matter of the doctor letting me go.
Lou CONTER has attended the yearly remembrance ceremony at Pearl Harbor many times, only missing one in the last decade. And he's always willing to share his story.
That's a picture of the ship. There's turret number 3 and 4.
But this is a first. Coronavirus concerns have the 98-year-old social distancing.
399, September 13th.
So Pacific Historic Parks linked him up with Zoom so he can continue to share his invaluable oral history virtually.
And there's the mainmast. The mainmast fell over, burned so hard.
It was 7:55 on the morning of December 7th. CONTER was on board the USS Arizona. The ship took 4 direct hits from Japanese planes. Over 1,100 men on the Arizona perished. Of course, Lou's video chat shifted to them being acknowledged.
What are your thoughts when you return back to the memorial and see the names of the men that you served with?
Well, the first time when we went back in the 91 at the 50th anniversary was tough as hell to go in there and look at those names, because you know your name is not there. You're out on the plaques outside but you're just lucky. You're one of the lucky ones. And give them a prayer and say you're thankful for them, because they did their ultimate. They lost their life to save America.
CONTER is now one of only 2 living USS Arizona survivors. In recent weeks, some, including the president, have been comparing the COVID-19 tragedy to the 1941 attack.
This is really the worst attack we've ever had. This is worse than Pearl Harbor.
A journalist recently asked Lou about that comparison. Here's what he had to say.
The virus, to me, I got a call here from a newsman here 30 days ago, and he said, this is like Pearl Harbor. What are you doing? How are you handling it? I said, it's nothing like Pearl Harbor. I said, here I'm sitting here watching my television, getting all the news and everything, and having a scotch and water. And I said, if we didn't do that in Pearl Harbor Day, we were getting shot at.
Lou CONTER there, truly an example of the greatest generation.
Absolutely.
You know, he doesn't have the internet, so he actually went over to his neighbor's house to get hooked up with Zoom, and so he had a little help there with all those shared screens you were seeing. They're not quite that tech savvy, but
some great stories, though.
Yeah, we posted that to our digital platforms as well. So we got some good news to get to, some more good news.
Yep, the Makaha Sons are helping the Hawaii Theater to raise money by playing a concert there tomorrow afternoon. Of course, no one's allowed inside, but you can watch for free on Facebook at Hawaiian Music Live. The 90-minute live stream starts at 3 o'clock. And more than 25 churches representing every island joined in the making of a musical montage. And it helps the Hawaii Food Bank. Here's Jim Mendoza.
The Lord bless you and keep you.
This benediction set to music is called The Blessing. Hawaii's version was done by Hawaiian Islands Ministries to comfort listeners and counter the effects of coronavirus.
There's so much pain and discomfort in this state that I wanted to do a song through Hawaiian Islands Ministries that would bless people and encourage them.
Pastor Dan Shun of First Presbyterian Church invited 25 churches, big and small, to join voices, from the first church established in Hawaii to a brand new one on Molokai.
We made sure we had churches from all the different denominations, and we wanted singers, cross-generational, the youngest on the kapunas singing, everybody together.
Feast on you and give you peace.
The singers recorded in their homes. Award-winning musician and producer Imua Garza put it together. Ninth Ave Studio edited the images.
If you listen to the song, the melody is beautiful, but the words are very powerful. So we just wanted to make sure we got the music right, first and foremost.
The video's available starting tonight at thehawaiiblessing.com and on YouTube.
When the video was finished, I think for myself and the entire crew, we were blown away. We really hope it'll be a great source of encouragement and a blessing to everybody.
And viewers can be a blessing. Hawaiian Islands Ministries urges those who watch it to make a donation to the Hawaii Food Bank. Jim Mendoza, Hawaii News Now.
Loving all these musical mashups we're seeing about all these Zoom and technical meetups that people are having. Hope you guys are able to give a donation to the food bank like Jim just mentioned as well. That's going to do it for us on This Is Now today. Coming up literally in about 5 minutes, we're expecting a press conference that we're going to bring you on our digital platforms with Mayor Caldwell. So just stay tuned for that. We're going to start up a new live feed any moment. So until